Hello and welcome to another wonderful episode of Numeril. We thank you for tuning in. I'm your host, Damon the Real Nailer. We have an excellent show today for you. We are going to look at a significant event that's going to occur. And what is that event? It is called the Battle of Gog and Magog. Previously, we studied the Battle of Armageddon, which took place not too long after the Day of Redemption or the Rapture, the First Resurrection, whichever term you use, because it describes each event that happens with that one event, each segment of the population that's affected, the dead born again believers, the alive born again believers, and 144,000. So all of those titles are appropriate. But what happens, that battle of Armageddon took place soon after. Well, this is another significant battle that takes place and is recorded in the book of Revelation. And what we want to do is just basically follow the same format, which is to find out when it happens, where it happens, and exactly what happens. But in this episode, in addition, we're going to compare it to the battle of Armageddon. So first off, we want to know when. You can look at those scriptures in Revelation. Immediately following the Battle of Armageddon, Christ and the saints will establish his global kingdom, with the headquarters being in Jerusalem. This kingdom will initially last for 1,000 years, during which Satan will be locked up in a bottomless pit. Once the 1,000 years expire, Satan will be released to go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is the sand of the sea. All right. Now, where will it take place? This battle will take place in Jerusalem as well. Revelation 20:9, it says, "And they went up on the breadth of the earth and compassed the camp of the saints about and the beloved city." Ezekiel 38:8, "After many days thou shalt be visited. In the latter years thou shalt come into the land that is brought back from the sword and is gathered out of many people against the mountains of Israel, which have been always waste, but it is brought forth out of the nations, and they shall dwell safely, all of them." So what happens, just like the Battle of Armageddon, this battle is in Jerusalem as well. But we notice that he doesn't go to all nations. Satan goes to the nations that are on the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog. What happens? Satan will lead this massive army to surround Jerusalem. God will then rain down fire, brimstone, and hailstones from heaven to destroy them. The ravenous birds and beasts of the field would eat the remains of the people. After this, Israel will burn the weapons for 7 years and bury the remains of the people for 7 months. Now we want to compare the two to see the similarities and the difference. So the Battle of Armageddon is a short time after the Day of Redemption. The Battle of Gog and Magog is a short time after the millennial reign. And when we look at the span between these two, it's about 1,000 years. What happens with the Battle of Armageddon? Satan, the beast, and the false prophet, they release devils to gather all the kings of the earth with their armies against Jerusalem. With the Battle of Gog and Magog, Satan just goes out and deceives the nations in the four quarters, Gog and Magog. With the Battle of Armageddon, Christ and the saints return to earth riding white horses. With the Battle of Gog and Magog, Christ and the saints are already here on earth, because we will have just reigned for the 1,000 years with the global kingdom of peace. Jesus destroys the armies with a sword from his mouth, a plague, and a riot. That's with the Battle of Armageddon. With the Battle of Gog and Magog, God destroys armies with fire and brimstone and hail from heaven. Two different scenarios. The last, the fowls eat the remains. That's what happens with the Battle of Armageddon. And with the Battle of Gog and Magog, the fowls, beasts, eat the remains, and the people bury the weapons and bones of the armies. Two different battles, two different times. Oftentimes people try to overlap and they get confused about when, where, and what happens. But right there, we were able to point out the differences between them. First of all, 1,000 years. Next of all, Christ returned and he causes the plague to happen. The sword comes out his mouth. And then with the Battle of Gog Magog, God just rains down the fire and brimstone from hell because Christ and the saints are already here in the earth. And so those are some major differences, so you can understand the differences between the two. Because as I stated, many people get them confused, they overlap them. But we have a full description of the battle of Gog and Magog in Ezekiel chapter 38 and should be 39. And we know that we looked at the battle of Armageddon with Zechariah and Revelation, and there were several other scriptures we gave you. And so we hope that you understand the difference between the two, and we hope that you have a clear revelation of how things play out, the what, the when, and the where that occurs. So we truly thank you for tuning in to Numeril. We hope that you've received the necessary insight. We ask that and pray that God will bless you. Until next time, see you later.